What if everything you've ever known was just a lie, and instead your only purpose in life was to be a pawn in someone else's game, willing or not, along with being stripped of your entire identity and everything you have ever known? How much do you think you could realistically take if your mind is eventually snapped in two? This is a question I'm sure the poor children of Playcare ask themselves over and over again. While their freedom isn't as freeing as they may have expected, along with their hour of joy being a disaster disguised as a savior, Poppy Playtime is a game with a story I'm really glad I got into lately, just like you should be getting into being a subscriber of this channel as we make our way towards 500 YouTube subscribers. Nah, but seriously, this video is going to be a fun one, and one that I've been wanting to make for quite a while, so why don't you sit back and relax. We got a toy factory to visit and children to find. This mess of a business takes place at a company called Playtime Co. with founder Elliot Lutwig in the wonderful year of 1930, same year as marriage fell apart. Lutwig here had one goal: to entertain children across the globe, and sure as shit, he would end up accomplishing this goal in more ways than one, eventually becoming the most famous and well-known manufacturing company during his time. But our story fast forwards a bit to the year 1950 with the creation of Poppy Playtime, a doll that was created with the intent of acting like a real girl, giving children a new friend to play with, along with being able to do such amazing things like talk and converse, along with actually being introduced with a brand new, fancy, and for a split second terrifying commercial. Poppy would end up being an outstanding success, kickstarting dude's career into a proper toy maker. It was also during this time the poor bastard known as Thomas, a pediatrician who worked at Playcare, would be hired during the 1955, only to later be diagnosed with lung cancer, and with death starting to knock on his door, Thomas over here chose to attempt to cheat death in the only way he knew how, by volunteering to become Experiment 1199, otherwise known as Bron. Remember that it's kind of important for later. However, the story jumps forward in time once again to the year 1961 with the creation of Bron, just a little over a decade after the extremely successful Poppy Playtime, and 5 years later the creation of Boxy Boo was born. And while he wasn't as successful as some of the others, Playtime Co. eventually found a purpose for the toy in various experiments. See, if you watch the tape introducing the Bigger Bodies Initiative, you can actually see his box in the background, because the Bigger Bodies Initiative was all about turning orphans into giant toys to avoid lawsuits and have more efficient work done. Yep. Here we go. See, an asshat by the name Harley Sawyer, apparently also known as the Doctor, approached Playtime Co.'s executives with a solution to the company's ongoing problems, because with incidents of employees witnessing these experiments, which I'm surprised Playco didn't prep for given its size, but whatever, along with decreasing profits were causing Playtime Co. to buckle, enter the idea of giving giant toys to increase workforce and costs, which I guess, horribly mutilated orphans who had zero say in the matter aside. It is a solution to the current problem, the shit solution, but an effective one if it has no side effects, could solve the issue that Playtime Co. is having. Eventually, the Bigger Bodies Initiative, or BBI as I'll be calling it, not only to save time, but also save Hellish's poor editing hours. However, it was accepted, and Playtime would construct the game station to test the orphans, because since they were just kids who have known almost nothing but Playcare, they can be very easily molded into workers who would do anything that the scientists told them to do. It worked like this: an orphan would be assigned a toy and had to complete 3 mini games that tested a child's brain speed and efficiency, reaction time, along with endurance and strength, with the asshats watching from a nearby room to record their progress. Children that did well would end up being sent back to Playcare, where poppy gas would be used to knock them out cold so the transformation process could begin. However, a huge problem would surface, as after this transformation process finished, these children, now toys, had almost zero clue of their previous life, besides locations that made them feel safe. Funny enough, one of the monsters you meet in Poppy Playtime, Mommy Longlegs, is, or was, a child named Mary Payne. This can be found in one of the transfer notes that, side note, could only be written by someone with absolutely zero soul. The note states that Mary, now Mommy, while being protective and motherly towards the experiments, she's hyper hostile towards members of the staff. I mean, I can only imagine why, right? This creates a problem that requires leverage to solve, as their solution was to put her in charge of the game station. As the note says, she has the warmth that a mother should have, and any rowdy children can learn to, quote, listen to their mother. And since she would start seeing these children daily and most likely adopt a mother-child relationship to them, the idea of Mommy lashing out on staff would drastically drop, because, I mean, after all, what mother would lash out in front of her child, right? It's absolutely fucking wild to me that not only did Mary get robbed of her childhood and life as she knew it just to be transformed into a toy to to save money on budget costs. Her very understandable anger towards the staff, whether she remembers it or not, is simply treated as, alright, fine, let's put mommy into a situation where she's forced by her very nature to do what we say. And very clearly this worked, as in mommy's own words, well, here, listen to it for yourself.
It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me Mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. But they'd come for games and never come back. They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve that. But you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
I seriously appreciate this kind of storytelling, and it really goes to show just how heartless the staff that worked on this project really were. She's problematic because she won't do what she's told and lashes out on staff, but the entire situation wouldn't have even happened if they haven't been ripping apart children in the first place. But you know, back to the BBI, by March 30th, 1991, Playtime Co. had created multiple experiments to do different jobs. 1170, aka Huggy Wuggy, became the factory security guard. Experiment 1222, aka Mommy Longlegs, or Mary, became the game station host. 1188, also known as Catnap or Theo, became the caretaker of Playcare, and Boxy Boo became Playcare's answer to employees who learned a bit more than they should have. Now, of course, you can only torture giant toys and have you dwarfed not only in size, but also in power for so long before something eventually goes south. And of course, Playcare would be forever changed on August 8th, 1995 at 11 a.m. with the Hour of Joy. You see, the toys and the people forced to give up everything to make it happen were eventually led by a being called the Prototype into inciting a massive rebellion. And in a tape that Poppy shows us, everyone deserved to die. The guilty, the innocent, nobody deserves to stay alive after everything they went through. Huggy, Mommy, Boxy, Catnap, and all the other toys swarmed the lobbies, and even places from the first 3 chapters, like the Make a Friend location, the game station, the catwalk leading to Poppy's room, are filled with dead bodies and blood absolutely everywhere. Some extremely lucky few did manage to somehow survive, the character that you play being one of them, but also people like Lilith Pereira. And after the onslaught was done, after all the dust settled, the toys would come to call this mess the Hour of Joy, with the toys taking the corpses of the dead and dragging them to the depths of the facility so they could be eaten as a form of sustenance. After all, toys or not, they are still living creatures. They need food, water, and I'd assume sleep to survive. But eventually the food shortage hit. Rather it be that it just ended or it was simply cut off, they eventually ran out of a way to be able to eat anymore. The biggest problem when it comes to actually surviving, and they ended up turning on each other instead. This entire situation, though, this Hour of Joy, has to be the absolute dumbest plan I've ever heard of for inciting a massive rebellion pretty much in all of gaming, and I'm gonna explain to you why real quick. This has to be mentioned. Now look, the toys were oppressed and wanted freedom. I get it, I do, but let's break down this plan step by step. Okay, the toys plan a rebellion killing anyone and everyone alive in the factory. Okay, cool, sure, but then what? Remember, these are still living, breathing beings. If they kill all the staff, what are they supposed to eat? How are they supposed to drink? Yes, living under the control of the scientists had to have been hell on earth, but by simply saying to hell with it, you're also destroying your only source of nourishment. And even if you ignore this fact, let's move on to the elephant in the room. Where exactly are these toys supposed to go after inciting this mass rebellion? I mean, come on, let's face the facts here. They don't exactly have anywhere to go. Anyone outside of Playcare is going to see them as monsters and freaks. They had nowhere to go after doing this Hour of Joy. Even Poppy sees it as nothing but a mess. Here, take a listen.
I remember hearing every moment of it. It went on so long, so agonizingly long. They tried to hide, to run, anything to stay alive. I remember their cries. What's going on? Why is this happening? What are those things? Senseless slaughter, that's all it really was. They killed everyone. The guilty, the innocent, didn't matter. All of that death didn't fix anything. And then, once it was all over, they dragged those corpses down below where they'd never be found. And they ate the bodies to stay alive. Prototype has to die for this. For everything.
The Hour of Joy from an adult perspective is the worst possible way to even attempt to fix this situation, but that's the thing, from an adult perspective, flip the script, and if you look at it from a child's perspective, it makes absolutely perfect sense. Mob Entertainment came out with a song called Sleep Well, and one lyric really keeps booming throughout the song over and over again. Come along down with me, you're not alone, you will see. We children, we have each other, and each other is all we need. If you were told this while already being pissed at the staff treating you like garbage, I can see this logic sticking, and assuming the prototype is a master bullshitter, which after listening to its VHS tape does kind of seem to be the case, you start to get the idea of just how this was able to be accomplished, even though in the end all they really did was trade one set of shackles for another. Yeah, sure, you're now free of the scientists, but at the end of the day, you're still stuck in the same cage, it's just bigger now. This was a lot, I know, but this is why I enjoy Poppy Playtime so much, because it makes sense. The story is fluid and understandable. Even though the game, through the eyes of the player, makes these creatures out to be monsters, you come to find out that all they really are just children who were taken advantage of and reshaped to serve a corporation who never really cared about them in the first place. Overall, Poppy Playtime was really interesting to get into. I remember when I first considered peeking open the doors, hearing people say it's just like FNAF, but after seeing it and reading it all for myself, I've come to see that it's so much more than that. And even if you aren't a huge horror fan, I seriously suggest playing the game for yourself. There's currently 3 chapters out at the moment, at least as of the time of making this video, and even for time's sake, there was some stuff that I left out, like Dog Day, for example. I want to talk about getting the short end of the stick. Dude's entire existence, or what's left of it at least, must be a living nightmare, but I think what really drives it home for me is, unlike games like FNAF, for example, where it works off jump scares, Poppy instead puts the enemy directly in your face, and even though you get a really good look at them, when shit hits the fan and it's time to run, it becomes terrifying. But honestly, I'm really excited to see what happens next, especially in chapter 4 and beyond, because honestly, you want to talk about movies and TV shows, give Poppy and the gang a script. I bet it would be absolutely incredible. But hey man, that's it. That's all I got for you. If you did enjoy this video, and I really hope you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And honestly, this is really fun. I want to make this video for a while, man. This has been on my mind for, like, at this point, probably a couple weeks. So I'm really glad it got pushed out. I'm really glad you all got to see it. But over most than everything, I'm just glad you stopped by today. And hey, see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.